Hello for the fourth Sunday in Ordinary Time, February 2-3. Chosen the Gospel, Luke 4:21-30, and a little bit of the first reading, Jeremiah chapter 1, verses 4 and 5, and 17 and 19. Today's Gospel begins where last week's Gospel ends. Christ is in Nazareth, a small little village where he grew up. He goes in the synagogue. He reads from Isaiah the prophet, and then he winds up saying, today this scripture from Isaiah is fulfilled in your hearing. And then he goes on speaking, and that's today's gospel, and what he said and what they thought of him. The thing that hit my fancy was, and all spoke highly of him, and were amazed at the gracious words that came from his mouth. All? I don't think all, because they start questioning him and his authority, and who are you? And the quote is, isn't this the son of Joseph? Where does he get all this? Or what does he act, and how does he act saying all this? Or in my translation, who do you think you are? Sort of reminds me of my past and my family and my relationship with my two brothers, Dick and Paul. Often, I got to say nice things about them because they're in heaven and they have to help me, but they're in heaven. But often, after I was ordained, we get into these discussions, arguments. Who do you think you are, Larry? Hey, you're my brother. I'm Dick. You're my brother. I know you. Paul would say the exact same thing. Who do you think you are? Telling us all that stuff. Well, let me tell you, I am, never was, and will totally admit that I'm not any better than either Dick or Paul. I'm not smarter, than they are. I don't have more personality than they had, but in fact, it might be the opposite. They might be smarter, holier, better personality than I. But that's not what I'm talking about here. What I'm talking about here is the power of the words and insights of Jesus. And is that part of my life, part of me? I do know that is not my power. Whatever I say really are hopefully the words of Jesus, and the power comes from Jesus and not from me. Now, it is true, I have had a wonderful education. I was sent to Europe, spent 4 years in Innsbruck, Austria. Had great theology, was taught there by talented, insightful persons. For example, the hero of the University of Innsbruck was the great theologian Karl Rahner. And Karl Rahner is probably considered the greatest theologian in the last 100 years. Well, he's deceased now, but his writings go on, and he's still held in high esteem. And so in Innsbruck, we studied theology. We read the scriptures. We discussed what is real, true spirituality. I left my country, United States of America, and left the language and had to go into Latin and German for 4 years. And left the American hamburger, the McDonald's Society. That's not easy for 4 years. The military will not do that to its personnel. They give a tour for a year or more. In retrospect, it was the greatest blessing in my life. So I didn't become better, holier necessarily than my brothers, but I did get some insights that I try to share by the scriptures. And my point is this: you too have been called to read the scriptures. You too have been called to, what did Jesus really say? What would Jesus do? What should I do with the insights of Jesus? And I need to take out time to pray. And I know it's hard. The hardest is taking out the time. The hardest is taking out time, settling down, listen. When you do, you're praying. And so what I ask you this weekend is the quote in the gospel: are you amazed at the great, gracious words that came from the mouth of Jesus? Do you listen to Jesus, read his words, follow him, and take him in? What about that? If you do, there's a power much deeper, greater than yourself. There's a power of insight into God. And there's a power to learn how to live better and happier and to try to become holier persons. You and I have been called, mainly through our baptism, we have been called like Jeremiah, in a sense, in that first reading. I knew you in the womb. That's what God tells Jeremiah. I have called you from the very beginning, even before your birth, to listen to my word, to take out time, to pray, to say, what would Jesus do? So don't think that your power or your greatness is you, or that I shouldn't think it's me. But it's God, God's love for me, God's call to me, and how I respond. Jeremiah had his problems. All the people in Nazareth had their problems. And we too have our problems. But to try to decide, to take out time to listen to his words will make you a better person, a holier person. Have a good day.